Woohoo! We are live. This is Math 40, Elementary Algebra. We are in section 2.4, and this section is all about formulas. The first part was a lot of word problems, and now the second part is a very particular part. This is actually an incredibly important part of math, and you're going to get practice with this with every math class you take from now on. This is called, pardon me, solving for a specified variable. So what the heck does that mean? Well, it means that, for example, in the very first one, you can see we started with P equals R minus C. That happens to be profit, is revenue minus cost. So that's one of the formulas on the very first page. And I want to solve it for R. So that means I want R equals something. Now we have P equals something and I want R equals something. So basically I want to isolate a different variable. I want to isolate the R for the revenue. Okay, so what we do is we start with the formula we've got, right? If you can't have the formula you want, use the formula you've got. And I'm going to say, okay, this is the one I want. I want the R. I want to isolate R. So I'm going to look at this and go, how do I get R by itself? Well, C is over there. I'm subtracting C. So I think, what's the opposite thing? I'm going to add C to both sides. And again, if you put down your pen or your pencil when you're doing it, sorry, it's a little fat, you'll see I have a plus C on both sides. Make sure there's a plus C on both sides of the pen. I've got P plus C over here, and I've got R, and then these two cancel each other out. P plus C equals R, so flip it around, R equals P plus C. No muss, no fuss. So what you're doing is you're solving an equation, but instead of getting an actual number answer, you're just getting a new form of that formula, which can be really helpful. So this would allow me, if I know the profit and I know my cost, I could figure out what my revenue is. I could even go through and solve for C if I want to know what my cost is. So lots of different ways we can approach this. That's what we're going to do. Let's do some. Okay, and just when we were feeling good about the world, suddenly, I've got a fraction. A plus B all over 2. So x equals A plus B over 2. This is not one of the formulas I gave you. Basically, this is just an average formula. If you've got two values and you want to average them. Also, you could look at it as something called the midpoint of a line segment. That's something that will come up later. So I want to solve for B. I have to find B. So let me find the B. There's the B. And I want to get B by itself. And oh my gosh, the whole thing is just, it feels like, because of the fraction. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what? I don't want to deal with the fraction. Talk to the hand fraction. Talk to the hand. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Notice on the left side, when I multiply by 2, I multiply by 2 in its whole number or natural number form. And over on the right, I write it as a rational number, as a fraction. And that has to do with the fact that I try to keep things in the language that will make the most sense. Over here, I've got whole numbers effectively. So I've got 2x. That's fine. And then over here, I have a fraction. So writing it as a fraction will help me keep everything, in the right place. And I see that, the 2 on the top and the 2 on the bottom will cancel. And then actually all I have over here is A plus B. So this is called, and I'll remind you again, this is called clearing fractions. Or I cleared fractions, or I am going to clear fractions. Once I get rid of the fraction, life gets so much easier because there's my B just sitting there now, not trying to get out, up on top of the second floor building. Now I've got b down on the ground floor, and I know that I've got a plus b, so all I have to do is subtract a from both sides. 2x minus a equals b, or b equals 2x minus a. And I'm done. So I'm going to recommend anytime you come across a fraction of any type, multiply on both sides, get rid of that fraction. It'll make the equation easier to look at. Now, might it make the equation longer? Yes. So, or not the equation, but the solving the equation longer. It can. So if you don't mind fractions, feel free to leave them in. Sometimes it's faster just to do it. This problem in particular, I picked because it goes faster if you multiply both sides by 2. The whole thing is just easier. So choose your own adventure. Get rid of the fractions. Don't get rid of the fractions. If you love fractions, you can even put extra fractions in if you really want. As long as you do the same thing on the left that you do on the right. Woohoo. Or I did that backwards, didn't I? Left, right. There we go. Same thing on the left that you do on the right. Okay, you ready for some more? Yeah. Okay. Deep breath. We got our support animal right close. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Now I'm just getting weird. And that's absolutely true. I'm just making up some formulas. Technically, a formula doesn't have to stand for anything. I've got the formula capital G over, and it's hard to see. It's 0.5. Sorry, it didn't print very well. Plus 16R equals negative 8t. I'll put that point in there. Oh, and I want G. And G is up on top of a 0.5. So what are we going to do? Well, there are actually a lot of ways to deal with this. And there are a lot of different paths you can take. Some of you who are really good with fractions may notice that this is actually a 0.5 in the denominator is actually equal to 2. Believe it or not, this is actually 2g. And if you see that, go for it. Go for it. Your life is going to be easier. But if you don't see that and you're looking at this going, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to suggest exactly what we did in the previous one. I'm going to go ahead and take 0.5. I know this is a little bit weird. It is a little bit weird. It's a little edgy, but we can do it. In fact, I really like using parentheses here because I think the decimal is making everything harder to see. So what am I doing? I've got 1, 2, 3 terms. So I've got 1, 2, 3 0.5s. Everybody gets their own 0.5. That's the way it works. When you're clearing fractions, it's not just one on the left, one on the right. It's everybody. Once I've done that, this cancels. Yay! So all I have is G. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Now I have to deal with the rest of the mess. Now, again, if you notice that 0.5 is 1/2, you know how to multiply 16 by 1/2. But if you're feeling nervous and your brain is not cooperating, you can always check it. 0.5 times 16 is 8. There you go. So we've got 8R. And then over here, I'm going to have a negative 0.5 times negative 8t. What's that going to be? You're right. Let me double check. 0.5 times. And then remember, if I do negative, I can do negative 8 is negative 4. Okay. Now that we've cleared that nasty 0.5 from the denominator, here's my G. What do I do to get it by itself? Let's subtract 8R from both sides. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people, and I wrote it on top on purpose. This is sloppy work on my part because I really shouldn't write two things underneath each other if they don't match. These are not like terms. Not like terms. But sometimes this happens. You're not thinking, you're going fast, you're excited because you're almost done, and you write two things on top of each other, and then your brain tries to make it negative 12 something. And let me point out that these two do not go together. You have to write them. Negative 8r minus 4t. That's it. There's no way to combine them. They get written in order. Now, why did I pick this order? Well, here's a fun fact. As you get better at math, we're going to start emphasizing the alphabet. I know the alphabet, that one you learned when you were very little. R comes before T. That's how we write the order. It's just standard. Do you have to write it like that? No. Absolutely not. But it is, if you write it in alphabetical order, it will tend to match my answers more often. So you can check your answers more easily. There you go. Not so bad. It looked awful, didn't it? And it wasn't that bad, really. Hopefully. Okay, are you excited? I'm so excited. Ooh, I'm so excited. Are you excited? This last one I wanted to do. I chose all of these specifically because they are the problems that people tend to miss when they do the homework. So let us talk about how to deal with this. So I want to solve b equals 50 plus r times the quantity x plus y, and there's y inside the parentheses. There are a billion ways to approach this. I'm going to recommend that when we try to get the y out, we go ahead and multiply through. Not everyone does this. Some people do a fancy thing with dividing by r. I'm going to tell you that you shouldn't divide by r in the first step. It's going to end up with something really gooey and it's going to be hard. It'll get stuck to the bottom of your shoe and then you'll never get away from it. So I'm going to multiply through and I get rx 50 plus rx plus ry. And we're still trying to get y. And at this point, I know, I hear you guys saying, wait a minute. If you want to get y by itself, you just messed it up. Look at that. The r is right next to the y. I hear you. I hear you. But I also got it out of the parentheses, and that was what was most important. So I got rid of the parentheses, and now I'm going to start peeling this like an onion. So I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides. So b minus 50 equals rx plus ry. Okay, now I'm going to subtract rx from both sides. And again, I know this is tiny and it's at the bottom and your brain is going to try to mix all these. Are these like terms? No, they're not. They're just going to get listed separately. I'm going to start with the capital B because it's positive. I'm going to write minus rx because it's variables and variables rank over constants. And then I'm going to write the minus 50. And that whole thing equals ry because that's all that's left on the left. Let's bring us up here. B minus rx minus 50 equals r times y. Okay, now how do I get y, what we're looking for? How do I get the y by itself? And the answer is I divide by r because these two are multiplied, right? So what do I divide by r? Well, there are a couple ways to do it. One way is to go ahead and to take the whole thing and just divide by r. So I get b minus rx minus 50 all over r equals y. I knew I hadn't given myself enough space. I should have just printed this on its own paper. I was thinking, oh, maybe I could get it onto one page. Nope, I can't. So I'm going to rewrite this. B minus rx minus 50 all over r equals y. Remember, when you're switching pages or writing in a new space, don't try to change anything. Just copy exactly what you have and then do whatever magic you're going to do. In this case, I'm just going to flip it around. I'm going to say y equals b minus rx minus 50 all over r. Okay. And then a big or. Because this is a big deal. This is something that will come up. I'm going to put a little star there to refer to this star. So when you divide by r, you can divide the whole thing by r, or you can divide each one. See how I multiplied each one times 0.5? I'm doing individual multiplication. You can also do individual division. You can't do an individual addition or subtraction, but individual multiplication or division, yes. So what if I just divide by r individually? Okay. Well, then we notice over on the left, on the right, sorry, the r cancels. Awesome. But we also notice right here, the r also cancels. So I get b over r minus x minus 50 over r equals y. Is this answer different? Well, technically, these are not the same answer. Ooh, sorry, I didn't write it the other way. B over r. I got so excited about drawing a box around it. There we go. These two, you can see the b over r right there. You can see the minus rx over r right there. See the minus 50 over r right there. I like this format better, but sometimes you're going to need this format. It's just going to depend on the setting. So I wanted to make sure I showed you both of them. For our purposes in this class, you could use either one. I won't specify, but as you go into other math classes, there may be a reason why they'd say, okay, I want you to divide individually, or I want you to divide all at once, or something like that. So just keep your eyes open for that. And guess what, you guys? Woohoo! You guys have made it. That was the end of 2.4. Not the longest section in chapter 2, but probably the second longest one. The longest one is coming up. I think 2.7 is longer. But next up, we're going to do 2.5 and 2.6. Totally fun. Some word problems. We love word problems. Yay! Remember your support Godzilla, your support spider. Get yourself something nice to eat and drink. Maybe snuggle up with a blanket or get your fan or make yourself comfortable. And we'll meet right back here. And let's do some word problems next. Woohoo! Woohoo! Okay, math on, guys. Math on.